Hello and welcome to the Why We See Movies podcast. I'm your host, Ron Houghton, and joining me today, as always, we've got Darren.
Hello, hello, hello.
And Paul.
Hello. How do you podcast? I forget.
Welcome back, Paul.
Exactly. We'll bring you up to speed. Today we're going to be talking about the 34th film in the MCU, Deadpool and Wolverine. But first, let's see what's going on inside the entertainment world with...
News on the march!
Hey, guys.
Ron?
Hello.
News on the march. You must have something interesting.
Yeah.
I think you guys know what I'm going to talk about. It's all Marvel news this week in honor of our feature review here. Which way should I start with the biggest news first or last?
Just start with a bang.
Yeah, I was
Start
just
with
going to
that.
say exactly that.
Okay, of course, the earth-shattering news in the Marvel Universe world, all announced at Comic-Con, is that the Avengers films, the Kang Dynasty is no longer the title. They're still going with Secret Wars for the second one. It's been renamed Doomsday in honor of the title character of Dr. Doom, who will be played by Robert Downey Jr. The Russo brothers are also back to direct both films.
Both.
I guess that was an actual requirement for Downey coming back. He wasn't going to come back unless they were directing.
Understandable.
It's like a 3-person deal, and it's going to cost Marvel a lot of money.
But it will also make Marvel a lot of money.
You would think so. I guess there is somewhat of a mixed reaction. What do you guys think of this?
There are people who just don't like the idea of an actor playing a new character within the same franchise like that.
Such an the established character
well,
of that.
yeah. I don't know. I think it's phenomenal news. I can't wait. I think it's brilliant.
Pretty exciting.
Like your idea of Sean Connery playing a Bond villain in one of the later movies.
Right.
Wish that would have happened.
Wouldn't that have been great?
Yeah, this is the same sort of thing. I think it's great. I can't wait for it.
It's like anything, right? It's how they handle it. What story do they have to tell? Is it something, they're smarter than me and more creative than me, so they'll come up with something like, is it a Tony Stark variant? Like,
no.
He's actually
that is
Victor Von Doom?
Yeah, supposedly it is not for sure a Stark variant.
Okay.
He's a hell of an actor. He can pull off a different role.
But I was going to say, even if it was a Stark variant, Tony Stark's done some shady stuff through the history of the MCU. Like we've got Voltron and
in many ways, Doom
right?
is like a dark version of Stark anyways in the Marvel comics. They're both scientists, both inventors, and both wear suits of somewhat armor.
Exactly.
And both have ego complexes for sure. Megalomania. Yeah, I think it's great. I think he's going to rock it. I guess they were actually courting him for Dr. Doom before he ever played Iron Man.
Oh, really?
In some of those early Fantastic Four movies. Yeah. So it's maybe a long time coming for him. And also, there's been some talk about what Secret Wars they're going to be doing. In the intro at Comic-Con, the Russos talked about this was one of their great stories that they loved growing up. So it sounds like the original Secret Wars to me, which Dr. Doom is he's a huge part in both of them.
Yeah. Secret Wars was one of the biggest comic book crossover events of my childhood that I was always really, really interested in. So I don't know. They could go so many ways.
And it's definite the Fantastic Four are confirmed to be in both Avengers movies.
And that also was a long time coming.
All that's missing is the X-Men.
Yep.
To do the actual storyline in the comics, right? They have everyone else.
Yep.
And they've been steadily introducing the X-Men into the MCU and cameos and bits and pieces here and credit clips. So
are these Avengers movies, Secret Wars, going to finish off a phase? It must be the capper. But phase 6 has just kind of started.
I thought Secret Wars was going to be the end of phase 6. You never know. They can change their mind as they adapt the story at any time and see how it works.
I thought Wakanda Forever was the end of phase 4.
I've long stopped being able to figure out when one phase starts and when another.
Really, what does it matter what phase it is?
I guess it does. Just in the matter of if they have anything bigger planned somehow, if they want to end off a phase on a bigger note than this, good luck.
Yeah,
I'm super excited about it. I'm just glad that it's locked with directors that I'm confident with. The team that brought us Winter Soldier.
Like the Mount Rushmore of the MCU, basically.
Yeah, Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, my favorite ones. So I can only hope that it's going to be as great as I hope it is. Do you think they're getting desperate spending this much money? Supposedly it's going to be $80 million just for the Russos alone to direct these two films back to back. That's a lot of money.
It might cry desperation. Because I don't track the box office. Has it dwindled? Like, I know the Marvels and some of that has not been as lucrative as some of the past, but has it been that much of a step down?
I don't know. You see these YouTube videos with titles like, is the MCU back from the dead?
Yeah.
Like as if they were ever dead. I mean, every other studio in Hollywood killed to be Marvel Marvel in their dead period.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everything post-COVID has been lower at the box office, right? Mm-hmm. There have been some hits during COVID, obviously. Spider-Man, No Way Home, a big one. Sure, they've been making less money recently, but you've had the hits like Shang-Chi has been highly successful. And
you don't think they're creatively desperate?
Well, I think the downturn in their ticket sales is not lost on Kevin Feige and Marvel. And so I think it's strategic for sure that they're bringing back the Russos.
You would think an Avengers movie is an instant $1 billion.
I would think so. I don't think they need to worry because I don't know, we'll see how the Fantastic Four does, but I think there's big anticipation for that. And I think these next two Avengers movies, there's just such a built-in massive audience.
They did have to do something about the Jonathan Majors Kang situation. I was in favor of them just continuing where they were and recasting.
Yeah, I thought recasting would have been fine with me.
But I thought they were actually going to introduce a variant in Loki. Wouldn't it be interesting if they introduced her as like a female variant of Kang? Because we saw a female variant of Loki, obviously. Right. So I thought, well, that's maybe a little too easy, but maybe I was expecting something.
I think it's almost as much as the character not even clicking with the audience as much as the Majors controversy. I'm sure that is the reason why they had to do it. But
well, that's a good point because he was a good character, but he was no Thanos.
No, exactly. Well, but I always think the only bits of Thanos that we saw early on was that little glimpse at the end of Avengers and a brief cameo in Guardians of the Galaxy, and then he didn't really appear until Infinity.
But they didn't have him in a full movie where he didn't feel like the overarching villain either, right? Because I had to explain to Melanie at the end of Quantumania that that's the big bad guy. So us comic nerds who know Kang, and I mean, you know the character better than I do, but understand the stature of the character. But if you're waiting on the general audience and they're not getting the fact that this guy is actually going to be the main bad guy, then that's not good.
Yeah, I hope that they're just not going to just throw the character in the dustbin and say that's it for Kang forever.
Continue something with him.
Maybe recast him in a few years somehow when it's not as important. Because he is a fun character to play with because he's, it's all the time travel with him.
They've already set up so much with him that it would be a shame to abandon him.
I think so. I guess Jonathan Major said he's heartbroken after losing the role of it. And too bad, so sad, buddy.
Maybe don't be shady.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the biggest Marvel news of the week for sure. So something to definitely look forward to. I think in 26 it's coming out. 26 and 27 back-to-back films. Okay. Other news, Fantastic Four, we talked about a little bit. It has a title now. It's called First Steps. I'm about as excited about that as Spider-Man Homecoming when I first heard about it, but I love Homecoming now, so it all fits in fine. It's not going to be an origin story. They're going to stray away from that. It's been done a few times before. And I don't know if you guys know this, but it's taking place on a different Earth.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, in the 1960s world.
A new 60s world, and I saw just about 30 seconds of leaked footage from San Diego. I didn't even watch that. Well, I saw a couple seconds of it, and I thought, no, something like this I want to see in good quality.
Exactly. It's in production right now in England. And like I said, this is such an important film for Marvel. I really hope they knock it out of the park.
I'm excited. When I was a kid and reading comics, that's the team I knew better than any of the others. I had more Fantastic Four than Avengers or X-Men, and I was really into them. So I've never sat through a full Fantastic Four movie yet because they just haven't seemed worthy. Yeah. But I can't wait for what this one brings to the table.
They're throwing a lot of things in it besides it being on a different Earth in the 1960s, and Galactus is going to be in it, Silver Surfer is going to be in it, and then somehow they're also going to be introducing these characters to play a role in the next two Avengers movies. It's a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of just three movies, but let's hope they can make it all work out.
Let's hope Galactus isn't just a cloud this time.
No. Ralph Ineson, the great English actor, is going to play him.
For such a cornerstone of the Marvel Comics universe, they really have been neglected and forgotten and not really treated, like you said, Darren. Like, you can't even sit through a movie. Like, when the first one by Fox is the best one.
The Silver Surfer one's, I thought, a little better, the second one, just because Silver Surfer's in it and he's more interesting than the other villain. Their Doctor Doom was terrible.
Yeah.
It'll be easily better than any of the FF movies that have come out.
Yeah.
Will it be one of Marvel's great movies?
The last good thing I can think of is they had that 90s cartoon that was actually really good, but it only lasted a couple seasons. So I'm hopeful, but hesitant.
Me too. Thunderbolts, they didn't really announce too much news, so I'm just going to skip over that one. And Brave New World, the new Captain America movie, there's a trailer out for it. Have you guys seen it?
Sure have.
Yep.
Looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
They said that they're going for a very Winter Soldier type vibe.
Perfect.
Yeah,
looks like
that, for sure. Yeah, Giancarlo Esposito's, I think he's the main baddie, but he's not seen a lot in in the trailer.
He's going to be playing a character named Sidewinder. He's kind of the head of the Serpent Society. It's very Hydra-like. Yeah,
it looks very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there's that big finish to the trailer
with Red Hulk.
Yeah, the glimpse of the Red Hulk there.
That's really all you need.
That's all you need. That looks thrilling. I can't wait.
Probably just a tease. I think he'll be making more of an appearance in the Thunderbolts. We'll see.
And Harrison Ford actually seems pretty happy and optimistic about the movie.
Supposedly he would have grown the mustache if they asked him, he said. I guess maybe they want to have that different look between him and William Hurt. I always think it was funny whenever he turned into Red Hulk, he would lose the mustache and then gain it back. So maybe they just want to avoid that.
Yeah.
It just goes to show you how recasting can be pulled off really good. And William Hurt is no chump to recast.
Right.
And Harrison Ford is going to bring something completely different to the table, but they both work. Maybe it's General Ross has not been a massive character in the series so far, so they felt it was easier. At any rate, can't wait.
Yeah, he's a good addition. Mm-hmm. And supposedly they're finally going to be referencing Tiamat, the giant celestial that's come out of the ocean. Marvel's going to acknowledge that happened, and whatever she changed him into, that's going to be the source of adamantium.
Oh,
in the MCU.
Well, I'm glad it hasn't just been kicked to the curb and forgotten, because I understand that there's not universal love for that movie, but don't just ignore it.
Only at this table.
Yeah.
No, I can't imagine they'll ignore it. It's just, well, let's face it. Do we in our daily lives talk about a big news event from 6 months ago every day? I mean, sure, a giant coming out of the earth is pretty big news, but they don't need to address it every day in every other movie or project.
But I'm glad that they finally are, though.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. It does need to come up at some point.
For sure. Okay, that's it for the Marvel news this week. Shall we move on to our feature review?
Sure.
I waited a long time for this team up. In my world, you're well regarded. You were an X-Man. Fuck that, you were the X-Man. The Wolverine. He's a hero in my world.
Yeah, well, he ain't shit in mine.
Deadpool and Wolverine was written by a lot of people. Too many to name. It was directed by Sean Levy. It stars Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, and Emma Corrin. That's all I'm going to mention now. I'll give you the IMDb plot. Deadpool is offered a place in the MCU by the Time Variance Authority, but instead decides to recruit a Wolverine variant to help save his universe from extinction. First thoughts on Deadpool Wolverine? Paul, what'd you think?
Well, being a fan of the series and the brand of humor of the franchise, I kind of knew what I was getting into. Surprisingly saw it opening day, which is a shock to everybody, including myself. The chemistry between Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds is totally on point. I was laughing from the opening credits to the end credits.
It's the bromance of the year.
Oh, I saw them on Hot Ones the day before, and they talked about how it would have a buddy cop feel to it. And they planted the seed, but I totally grew because it totally had that.
I heard a 48 Hours vibe. I thought that was good.
Yeah. Yeah, it had all the in-jokes and little references that I was hoping to see, laughing front to back and cameos galore, which, I mean, this is to the nth degree, and I'm not going to spoil any of that. Yeah, I just had a really good time with it. It's just a razor-thin plot to get you to the next action sequence and the next joke, which I kind of expect in a Deadpool movie. Out of the three, maybe it's the most emotionally lacking one in that.
Really?
I felt number 2 had a bigger emotional impact on me than this. Not that I wasn't invested, but it just, maybe I was just too busy laughing, and I'll get it more on the next viewing. No, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was great. It was everything I expected and wanted it to be.
Darren.
I enjoyed it thoroughly. I'm not as big a fan of the first two as most people in the world are. I enjoyed them. Just the humor never really landed with me in them. I always found the jokes a little obvious for the genre, a little obvious for the tone, snicker here and there. But in this one, I definitely laughed more out loud than I did in the first two. I had a great deal of fun with it. The cameos, I honestly thought there were going to be more cameos, but what we have is great.
I got a whole page of them.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. And I have not rewatched the first two.
Oh, no?
I've seen them both just the once, and I'm definitely more looking forward to watching this one again. The best of the trilogy, for sure.
I agree. I had to warm up to the character too, because I never read him much in the comic books. So first time I saw the movie, I thought it was pretty good. The first one, and then the second one I saw just once, and then I've rewatched them a few times, and the more I watch them, the more I really like it. It's he's really grown on me as a character. Yeah, I thought this movie was great. Just like you said, Paul, it doesn't have a lot of plot to it, but it's a busy movie. That's for sure. It doesn't slow down, and there's lots going on. There's so many lines and jokes being thrown out. I think I'll probably need at least 2 more viewings to catch all of them and all the references that they were doing.
It needs a trivia track on the Blu-ray.
Totally. The one thing I loved, and it has been mentioned, although this is like an official MCU movie, trying to incorporate these 2 crazy characters in the MCU world, it's really just a love letter and a swan song to the Fox era of movies, which I thought was great. In these 20 years of movies that established this whole superhero genre that Marvel built its foundation on.
It's nice that the MCU is not just throwing that into the trash heap like they did with the previous Spider-Man and now the characters in this movie.
But it's also, it shows a lot more love to that era than like the last. I mean, the Fox movies went out with such a whimper with Dark Phoenix and the New Mutants were just limping, limping to the theaters with those. And it's nice that years later, I don't know if it's Ryan Reynolds, it's spearheading this, but to look back at all of these movies or these characters that worked or not in their movies and give them their due without naming names. That was probably my favorite part of the movie, seeing certain actors in certain roles.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree. And being a huge Wolverine fan from way back, there's certain, because you've got alternate realities, seeing different iterations of Wolverine that I've read and I love, even if it's for 5 seconds, just seeing those versions of the characters realized, like Patch, you've got
the
like
white suit.
Age
As
of
soon as you see that,
or even him up on the huge X cross,
and from that classic cover. Yeah, I know.
Just moments
that
like
is just candy for a comic book fan.
Oh yeah, you're right. Like, it is totally a love letter to the fans of this Fox universe before, but also fans of the Wolverine character for sure.
Absolutely. Like, I've been thinking about a year about how they were going to incorporate these guys into the MCU, and I didn't really think about any of the other things, right? And so they barely did it. I mean, I guess we have to get into the plot somehow without spoiling anything. This whole movie, like, is pretty much a spoiler.
We can generalize how the plot kicks off without spoiling anything.
Well, the very first character that we see is, we're going to have to talk about some things. I'll just move from the bigger spoilers later.
Yeah.
One of the first people we meet is Happy Hogan. I wasn't quite sure what the hell's going on there. How is Deadpool even having this conversation with him in Earth 616? That's the official Earth from the MCU timeline.
Yeah.
And they don't really ever explain it, do they? Later, how he is, I'm sure he's using that device that he must have used at the end of Deadpool 2 to go back in time.
Cable.
But that he can't travel to another universe with that.
They can do whatever they want.
I don't think they ever explain how he ends up there and then being rejected by the Avengers and going back to his world. I was like, that's a kind of a confusing way to start this. Then we meet the gang, his old gang. Him and Vanessa aren't together anymore. That's kind of shocking after everything he's been through the last 2 movies to be with her. I was kind of surprised at that. But other than that, they had the whole gang together. No TJ Miller, of course. That guy's pissed his career away.
Yep. But they had Pete.
Yeah, Peter's sort of taken his place, actually, as the lame guy.
The lovable lame guy.
Yeah, he's really good. I love Leslie Uggams as Blind Al. I think she's really funny. Yeah.
She's fantastic.
So we meet the old gang, and then it's not too long before the TVA is knocking at his door to say he's somehow messed up with the time variance, and he's being hauled over to the TVA that we've seen from Loki. And we meet a few guys, like Mr. Paradox is a new character, played by the guy from Succession.
Yeah.
Forget his name. Matthew McFadden?
That's it.
He's a good character. I enjoyed him. And then him in search of Wolverine to save his universe. And then he finds out that the Wolverine is dead. And that's where he has that whole fighting with Wolverine skeleton, which I thought was pretty funny.
That was clever.
And then he finally finds the Wolverine that he wants. And then it's off to Purgatory, or what's called the Void. And the whole movie pretty much takes place there, which I wasn't expecting either.
Which we're well acquainted with from Loki.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I saw the trailers and I saw the old Fox logo and things like that. I should have guessed it was taking place there, but I didn't.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's where we meet all of our cameos that are in the movie. We're going to have to go through them now, so I'm sorry for anyone out there who hasn't seen it yet. Well, spoilers.
Spoiler time.
Yeah, spoilers from here on out. Just know that we enjoyed it, and if you
trust our opinion, go see it. But
yeah, according to the box office, probably you've seen it already.
Yeah.
It's heading towards the biggest R-rated film of all time, beating out Joker. So yeah, the first major character we meet in The Void
is Chris Evans.
Is it Chris Evans? Yeah. That's
so.
before we meet the Sabretooth, the X-Men rejects of like Toad and Pyro.
Yeah, which was nice to see them again too.
So, were you guys fooled as soon as you saw Chris Evans for a second?
I bought it hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, I didn't even think.
Me too. I thought, okay, it's a variant, so I guess he's allowing himself to play this character for a second. And I thought, okay, that's allowed. And then flame on.
They plant the seed, though. I thought they did really well to plant that seed because he's in the office with Happy Hogan, and you're seeing the image of Cap all the time. So they're kind of putting that in your brain so that when you see Chris Evans, you're not thinking Johnny Storm.
Not at all. And he's having a lot of fun playing that character.
Oh, yeah. And him and Michael Chiklis were the best parts of those old Fantastic Four movies.
Definitely.
For me. So I was very happy to see that character again.
Yeah. It opened the door I thought, okay, if we're seeing him now, who knows who's going to be coming in. So, yeah, some of the X characters I mentioned, Pyro, Sabretooth, Toad, Blob are all kind of hanging out. There's that great fight with Sabretooth, Tyler Mane playing him from the original movie.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
Juggernaut's
later with Nova's gang.
Right, yeah, he does come later. Yeah.
And it's not Vinnie Jones. I don't know who they got.
No, they got a new actor to play him. And who else is there? Azazel, we meet. That's the sort of Nightcrawler-ish, the red character from X-Men First Class.
Right.
Yep.
Calypso from X-Men Last Stand. She's the girl with the tattoos on her face. Psylocke is supposed to be in there.
Thought I saw her for a glimpse.
Not played by Olivia Munn. No,
I don't think so.
No, because I thought I saw her too, but I was like, well, that's definitely not Olivia Munn.
Yeah.
Right. And then, of course, the giant Ant-Man body. That's there. I don't know what happened to Scott.
That was fun, though.
Yeah. And then they meet Xavier's sister, the main villain of the movie. She's good in it. Cassandra Nova, she's a tough character.
I don't even know if it's a character from the comics or if they created her for this.
No, she's in the comics.
Is she?
Yeah. And then they have a pretty fun fight with her and barely escape with their lives. Then Deadpool and Wolverine end up meeting the rest of their new gang, which is the funnest part of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that would include Jennifer Garner back as Elektra, which is the only cameo that was spoiled for me. I heard about that like a year ago.
I knew about that one very early.
Again, I didn't know exactly, was it going to be just a flash in the pan appearance? Who knows if any of these cameos are actually going to be making a dent in the actual storyline or not. But definitely she got more play than I thought. And then, of course, Wesley Snipes back as Blade.
Which blew me away that they got him.
Supposedly him and Reynolds did not get along on Blade 3 Trinity when they were making it. So everything must be patched up.
A big paycheck will smooth over a lot of wrinkles and time.
Daphne Keane was back as X-23 from Logan. That was very nice to see her. She was so good in that movie.
I knew she was going to be in a new Sabretooth, but those were the only two things that were spoiled.
Yeah,
X-23 and Blade were ruined for me the week before I saw the movie.
How?
Just stupid headlines on the internet.
Oh, really? That sucks.
I don't know why. After opening
on a headline, too.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
it's just
terrible.
So stupid.
And then the one that made me smile the most, and I just loved it, was Channing Tatum as Gambit. Tatum has been chomping at the bit to play this character for like 15 years, and it just never happened.
Yeah, I did a slow clap when he walked on the screen, like, finally.
And he looks good in the suit.
And nailed the accent.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, it makes you think about, we missed out on a good Gambit movie somewhere. If Fox could have got their shit together.
Yeah.
Fox could have had these two characters together before even the sale went. I mean, if they were thinking of things clearly ahead of time.
That's what happens when you don't have someone clear steering the ship.
Yeah. Well, look what they did with Deadpool and X-Men Origins Wolverine, right? I mean, that's what they thought of that character.
The mark with the mouth has its own mouth shut.
Ryan Reynolds had to basically cheat the system to even get his movie made, the first Deadpool.
But it's given us lots of fodder for jokes.
Totally.
So it's worth it?
Yeah, I think it was Tom Rothman in charge back then, and he didn't have a clue what he was doing. Okay, that's it for the team.
And I hope we haven't seen the last of that team, too.
I would say we have, but it was great to see them in action while we could.
For playing such an integral part, too, I was thinking, kind of like you were saying earlier about how you thought some of these cameos would just be a fleeting glance, but the fact that we got to live with these characters a little bit and they actually served the story.
Sure.
Yeah, they were vital. Yeah, that was great.
Just like they did with Spider-Man No Way Home, bringing in all these characters from other universes. I was worried about the same thing. Oh, they're just, it's just fan service, but they're giving meat to these characters. They're making them
contributing
important to the
something.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did a great job with these. I was so happy to see this group together and totally enjoyed it. I could watch, exactly, Darren, I could watch a whole another movie with this team.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
And the smart writing with the lines, like where they're talking about the history of these characters and being part of a team, and how Gambit's like, I don't know, I think I've kind of always been here. I've never really been part of a team.
Yeah.
Like just these little jabs that if you know, it's funny. If you don't, it's just a comment that doesn't matter.
So many things are flying by.
There will never be another Blade or whatever. Whatever the line was.
There's only ever been one Blade.
Yeah.
And then just the quiet turn to the camera from Deadpool. Some other cameos besides the other Wolverines that we've mentioned. There is the Calverine, which I thought was pretty good with Henry Cavill playing Wolverine.
Yeah.
That was
hilarious.
The crowd cheered at that moment for me. And then of course the side comments. Sorry, things haven't worked out in your own universe too.
Seeing the comic accurate sized Wolverine was pretty funny.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. I don't think they'll be casting that short for the MCU. No. And then tons of little crashed objects in the void that we see throughout the movie that it's kind of fun, like the Fox logo, of course, the helicarrier, the Milano ship from Guardians of the Galaxy. There's a Sentinel foot.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He takes
which
a
they
ride
use
on.
it to travel. Yeah.
The hot rod car that they're driving is Tony Stark's hot rod from the first Iron Man movie. Remember in his garage with the flames on it?
I forgot about that.
Yeah. There's a Chitauri ship, Thanos' Black Order ship, circular one that comes down in Infinity War.
Oh, that's what that was.
There's a moment of Thor's helmet, which I loved.
Yeah.
Did you see that? Yeah. I love Thor's helmet.
And that was right beside another object, wasn't there? Very close to Thor's helmet. Oh, it's the old style cap shield, wasn't it?
Happy Hogan has that cap shield in his office that we see.
Yeah, no, it was like
that one from Iron Man 2.
Oh,
right.
like
That's right. Yeah,
shield,
the 1940s one.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're right. Forgot about that. Yeah. Supposedly Doctor Strange's cloak is in there somewhere. I didn't see that.
There was so much. If I saw it, I would have been on to the next thing. But that.
Exactly. That's what I mean. It's just eye candy. So after they sort of form this group, they go on that little mission, go after Nova. There's a big fight there. Like you said, Juggernaut's helmet is used for a bit. The only thing that we're forgetting about is sort of that big fight with all the other Deadpools. We're introduced to a lot of Deadpools in this movie. There's the nice pool.
And there's other
Ryan Reynolds, the one with the longer hair. Dogpool is great. Lady Deadpool was played by his wife for a second.
Nathan Fillion was Headpool.
Right.
Matthew McConaughey was
Cowboy
Deadpool.
I didn't know that was either one of those guys.
Yeah.
Well, and then there's a fun nod to Welcome to Wrexham in that there's that Welsh Deadpool,
I saw.
And it's Paul Mullen, the football player. So I was like, that's funny. And who got cut? Rob McElhenney's part got cut.
What was he playing?
He looked like some kind of future cybernetic thing. He just said, now that the movie's out, I can release this. And it showed him without the mask, but you could tell it was some kind of like armored futuristic version. Okay. I'm not familiar with all the different types. So.
Right. I thought maybe he'd be in a TVA or something. Throw him in one of those. We did see the return of that. I think her name is B-15 from Loki. She has a small role in it too. So yeah, they battle all of these Deadpools in the street trying to make it back to the TVA. Something to do with the Time Ripper. Mr. Paradox is using it to destroy the universe. He's sort of going rogue with the TVA and they have to stop him. Something like that.
Yeah.
Cassandra is going to use it to do her evil deed or whatever.
Right. When she gets into the real world, she wants to use it to destroy everything as well. So it's big sacrifice time for the two guys. And
one person can't do it, but two can.
Exactly. I was pretty sure neither one was going to be killed during it.
Both have regenerative powers.
Exactly. So. And that's pretty much it.
I mean, it's thin plot, but it's all for just
nonstop fun, fan service characters. And,
They did introduce something that I'm curious to see if Marvel will embrace and if they'll keep going forward, where they talk, I forget the exact phrasing of it, but it's basically like that linchpin character. And if that character no longer exists, that universe dies, because that's kind of the whole...
An anchor character.
Anchor character. That's what they call it. So I'm curious to see if that's something they keep going forward or if that's just something that they just let live in this movie. So.
Right. The Wolverine that in this movie is dealing with a lot of shit. It's a redemption story for him after, I don't know, supposedly he went out for lunch one day and came back and all the X-Men were dead or something.
He basically didn't heed the call of danger.
Yeah, he wasn't there to protect his buddies. Do you think we've seen the last of this Wolverine variant? Is Hugh Jackman done with the role? I don't know if he's said anything. He's already retired from the role once. Maybe he doesn't want to announce it a second time. But
yeah, I mean, you know what? After this, I think none of these characters are in the MCU, and everyone knows what fun the MCU is. How can he turn down? Maybe he's not going to do another Wolverine movie, but I'm sure he'll show up again.
Somewhere?
Yeah, be tough not to.
With all the alternate realities, I could see him doing some kind of a handoff to whoever's cast to play this character next, right? Like, how that would work, I don't know.
They could actually do an Old Man Logan properly.
Yeah, because they would have all the characters.
All the Hulks available.
Yep. I think we'll see him again. Like you said, Darren, I don't think it'll be in a major capacity, but I think we're going to see him again.
Deadpool 4? I have no idea what the hell it could be. They're back at the Earth 10,005 or whatever, right? Both of them enjoying the party again. And hopefully Wade's getting back with Vanessa.
And now his universe is not dying because now, well, he and Wolverine are there. So now those major characters are...
So, I mean, it doesn't even end off with him being officially in the MCU.
That's
or at least
true.
in Earth 616 world. I guess they can leave him hanging for those Avengers movies without any problem and come back later.
Yep.
Exactly, yeah. They can do
unless they've wrapped up the entire multiverse at that point, and there are no other multiverses at that point. Who knows what's going to happen? Well, any final thoughts? I think we've said it all. Had a lot of fun with it. That's for sure. Can't wait to see it again.
Yeah, if you're looking for a plot-driven movie, this is not the movie to see. But if you just like comic book movies and laughing, then see this.
I think the older you are and the more comic book movies that you had to sit through in your life. Like, I own Elektra.
I've still never seen it.
No. Like I said, it was just wonderful to see this sort of swan song to this whole era of films that never really got its proper due.
Yep.
Shall we move on to our rant and rave section?
Let's fucking go.
Yeah. I'll start off today. I have another superhero movie to talk about, MCU related as well. It's associated with Marvel Studios. That would be, I bit the bullet, and I have seen Madam Web, which of course is part of this whole Spider-Verse movies that Sony is doing, along with Venom and Morbius, Kraven the Hunter coming out. Well, this movie does suck, that's for sure. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, it's not terrible in like a conventionally terrible way. There's just critical errors with the thinking of this movie that sabotage it from the get-go. One, Dakota Johnson is fine in it. I think she's actually a pretty credible lead as this daughter of a scientist who was searching for some sort of cure in the jungle. She's uncovered some spider-type, venom-type thing and passed it on to her daughter, who has, after a near-death experience as a sort of an EMT, sort of brings her powers to life. And she finds that she has precognitive abilities, can see into the future somewhat. There's another guy, the bad guy. He can also see into the future, and his future that he sees are these three young girls who are going to play a role in his demise somehow. They're going to spell his doom, and he's got to go find these three girls and kill them before they can do what they're predestined to do. Dakota Johnson finds out about this and wants to go after the girls before he can get to them. That's pretty much the movie. So you see visions from this bad guy of the three girls and the characters that they become and how they're going to destroy him later. And each one becomes a super heroine with fantastic abilities and different costumes and all of these things. And I'm going to be spoiling this movie, by the way, for anyone who's listening. The biggest problem with this movie is these characters are never realized. So it's all about her trying to protect these girls and him after these girls because they all represent this greater thing that they become, which they never do in this movie. That's all for the sequel. It's all for later movies, and maybe they want to do spin-offs of each one of these characters. Who knows? But it's just such a misstep to set up a whole movie on the premise of seeing these characters become something that they never do.
Well, especially the trailer, it showed glimpses of all of them doing something with their powers.
It's all visions.
So you just think that's all going to culminate with some great battle with all of them? Or
never do they actualize their powers for real. So the whole movie is just a giant tease. And it is not nearly a good enough movie to be just a tease for something else. I don't know what they were thinking. Yeah,
that's terrible.
The whole third act should have been completely rewritten.
They were thinking, we own the Spider-Man characters, and we're going to milk every penny we can out of them.
Spider-Man universe without Spider-Man should be called Ciderverse, because it's a side quest.
None of these characters could hold their own franchise, that's for sure. And the villain in it is just a Spider-Man wannabe. I don't know if you've seen the images of him, but he's kind of wearing a black Spider-Man suit with a little red on it. It looks very similar. Just trying to con people into thinking that this is something it's not, which is a Spider-Man movie or a good superhero movie.
Or a good movie.
It's bad, but not in the ways I thought it would be bad. The actors are doing an okay job. It's just the whole concept of the movie is backwards. Stay away from Madam Web, a frustrating movie to watch. Okay, my next one I want to talk about is a better project. It's from Disney Plus. It has Hugh Jackman in it. It's called Faraway Downs. Do you guys remember a movie from 2008 called Australia?
Yes.
With Hugh Jackman and Nicole Kidman?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is it, reimagined. It's directed by Baz Luhrmann, which you guys know I'm a bigger fan of than
me for sure.
Than you for sure, Darren. I like his style. He's got kind of an old-fashioned approach to movies, and this is definitely his most old-fashioned type of movie. So he's taken what was a 2-hour and 45-minute movie. It was epic, that's for sure, and added about an hour to it. Now it's 3 hours and 45, and cut it up into 6 episodes.
Oh.
So besides the main stars, it also has Brian Brown, Ben Mendelsohn, David Wenham. Brandon Walters plays the young Aboriginal kid. He's quite good in it. Basically, it's like a classic love story. Nicole Kidman is sort of a cattle rancher. Her husband, he's either died or passed on this land to her, and she's gone to run it. And of course, the dainty woman in charge doesn't get any respect, and they don't think she knows what she's doing. So she needs Hugh Jackman, who's sort of a bold pro at this, to help her out. And there's villainous forces at work that want to destroy the ranch and take over and get the property. And so it's a love story mixed with that. The Aboriginal story is quite good. The young boy and the treatment of his whole people at the time. This movie takes place right before World War II. It sort of leads up into this Australia actually getting involved in World War II. There's an actual attack on the island that takes place in the big finale. I liked the movie when it came out, and I like the series too. If you're in for something that's, like I said, it's old-fashioned and not bringing really anything new to the table, but it's done well, and it's got some good actors in it. It's well done. I mean, you sort of know what you're in for something like this. Check it out if you're interested.
Is it an improvement upon Australia, or just sort of a different feel, a different expansion?
It's a different feel for sure, because I didn't watch it in one sitting. Did break it up into a few nights. I don't know the movie that well to think about what was actually added. Nothing in the series seemed fluff when I was watching it. It all seemed pretty integral to the story. So, he probably could have made a 4.5-hour movie out of it if he wanted to. Like I said, I like them both. I think the series is probably more palatable.
Yeah.
You break it up into probably 35-minute installments or whatever. Check it out, watch one, see what you're in for. How's that? It's on Disney Plus.
Right.
If you want some more Hugh Jackman in your life.
And who doesn't?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, who wants to go? Paul?
Sure. The first thing I'm going to talk about is it's a mixture of both on Netflix, and I had to buy a physical copy of a later season. It's Harley Quinn, the animated series. It's way better than I ever thought it could be. This stars Kaylee Cuoco as the titular character. She's got a great cast of characters surrounding her, like Poison Ivy, King Shark. The voice cast is fantastic. Lake Bell, Alan Tudyk, Ron Funches, Tony Hale, Diedrich Bader, Jim Rash, and just so many more that are well-versed in comedy. This show is kind of the DC's equivalent of Deadpool in that there's a lot of in-jokes. There's a lot of really clever dialogue. Nothing is held back. Like, they will make a joke about absolutely everything, and they'll take a character trait and expound on it. Like, Batman is just this really creepy loner that's stalking everybody. Catwoman is very seductive, but very aloof. It's very zany and quirky, but in all the best ways. The first 2 seasons are on Netflix right now. I had to break down and buy the 3rd season because I don't know when season 3 or 4 are going to hit here in Canada, because I know 4 is out in the States. Yeah, it is definitely worth checking out if you want something just well done, very funny, smart, and based in the DC universe with a lot of comedy gold in there. It's great. And the other thing I have to talk about is something that just released, so I haven't finished watching it. It just got released August 1st on Amazon. It's called Batman the Caped Crusader. It's a new animated series. The driving force behind it is Bruce Timm, who is one of the people in behind Batman the Animated Series, which I love. And Matt Reeves is involved in it, J.J. Abrams, and Ed Brubaker.
Wow.
He's involved in it too.
They're a great comic book writer.
Oh, yeah. And you can tell by his involvement because it's very noir based. Not that Batman the Animated Series wasn't, but that was very Art Deco at times. This is more of an exploration of the noir roots of Batman, and even the character design is closer to the original design, where he doesn't have the spikes on his gauntlet. They're just black gloves. It does have those kind of darker tones. I've only seen the first 2 episodes, but I love that they're not beholden to what's come before. They're willing to explore this completely completely different universe, reimagining characters like Penguin's a woman, Jim and Barbara Gordon are black. And I know there's going to be people that complain that they're messing with the characters. It doesn't matter. That it's not essential to the characters, and representation does matter.
You can only see the same thing repeated so often without changing it up.
Yeah, and it's done so well. The first episode kicks off with, you get the feeling that there's gang war that's burgeoning, and Rupert Thorne, who's a known big thug bad guy in the Batman universe, he's kind of got control of the streets, but then some of his warehouses are blowing up. It's revealed the Penguin's behind all that, so there's kind of that in movement. The second episode, it's more of a crime thriller than anything, and one of the main characters in it is based off of Boris Karloff, because it's based around like actors in old Hollywood, and there's been a kidnapping, and they're trying to figure out what the motive is and who has them.
What period does it place in?
It feels like it takes place in the 40s.
Nice.
Like it does have that old school feel, and very much, I know I've said noir a couple times, but very much like that kind of dark and gritty feel to it. It just feels fresh. It feels like there's a different creative force behind this, which I welcome, and I can't wait to watch more. So I thoroughly recommend it. There's 10, maybe 11 episodes. They're all out now.
On Amazon?
On Amazon.
A Warner Brothers thing.
Yeah, apparently they shopped it around to HBO Max, and it was originally going to be HBO Max, and then for whatever reason, they passed on it.
Because they're really smart at HBO Max.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
So, yeah, they took it to Amazon and got a release, and it's quality, so I can't recommend it enough, both series.
I'm intrigued on that.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, Darren?
All right, well, I'm going to start out with something that I liked so much. It's the most recent thing I've watched. And I've got a lot of other things I could talk about, but I really want people to check this out. I had so much fun with it. It is the 2023 film written and directed by Nida Manzoor, Polite Society. Heard of it?
Nope.
I saw the reviews when it came out about a year ago in 2023, and I added it to my list, and it has shown up on Amazon Prime. The closest thing I can compare it to is Edgar Wright's Hot Fuzz. It's about young Pakistani British girls, one in high school and one who's her older sister who's just dropped out of art college. And their kind of mundane British lives, going to school, their friends, trying to figure out what they're doing with their life. And it's got this undercurrent of hyper-reality, just as Hot Fuzz had with all these mad villains, and Timothy Dalton there playing kind of almost a James Bond villain. And in this, you've got a lead villain who's played by the great Nimra Buka. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. You guys will remember her as one of the genie characters, or Jeans from Ms. Marvel. She's from that show. And before we get too far, I better mention the names of the sisters. Priya Kansara plays the young Rhea. She's the lead character, the high school age girl. And her older sister is Rita Arya, plays Lena, her older sister. I've seen her in a couple things. She's a noteworthy British actress. So the short of it is that the older sister is about to be married off. Not quite an arranged marriage, because it's modern British society, but, sort of an arranged marriage. The younger sister is upset that she's losing her older sister to this closest relationship in her life, is now going off, getting married, and it sounds like they're going to move to Singapore, and she's not going to see her. And she starts looking into it with her friends, and lo and behold, her husband-to-be and his mother are just nefarious villains right out of a 1970s kung fu movie. And this movie is just chock full of hilarious in-jokes and non-stop quips. And I didn't even understand half of it, the thick British accents. But when I did pick up on it, I was laughing out loud. The younger girl and her two friends from high school are hilarious. The relationship between the sisters is great. There are some spectacular, and I mean spectacular, fight sequences in this movie. Some great battles. Like James Bond meets Bruce Lee. It is so much fun. From start to finish, I had a smile on my face. The title, Polite Society, doesn't quite give away how good this movie is, but when you see the kind of poster, our podcast is not visual, but if you're watching on YouTube, I know Ron's going to link to a poster in the video. You see this kind of, the main key art is like an old kind of 1970s looking kung fu pose, but with the two girls in their traditional, almost Bollywood outfits, right? And they're in fight poses, ready to do battle. I just love this movie, Polite Society. This is high praise. It reminded me of Edgar Wright's Hot Fuzz. Check it out immediately.
I will.
It's on the for real list now.
Yeah, on Amazon. Okay, that's good.
You got something to look forward to. And I will, follow that up with 2019's The Peanut Butter Falcon.
Is that with Shia LaBeouf?
Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, it's so long since I've seen this, I can't remember.
Zach Gottsagen, Dakota Johnson is in it, Bruce Dern, Thomas Hayden Church, John Bernthal has a cameo in it, the great John Hawkes, such a great character actor's in it. I mean, there's other wrestlers in here that I didn't recognize, but I know Jake the Snake Roberts in a heartbeat from my youth. He's one of my guys. Jake the Snake Roberts is in this. Written and directed by Tyler Nilsson and Michael Schwartz. It's about probably 20 years old or so, a young man with Down syndrome who's living in an old folks home because the state had nowhere else to take him, no other facility with a bed, which, given the southern United States, I wouldn't be at all surprised if that happens. Maybe not a lot, but he's buddies with Bruce Dern. And I've said it before in this podcast. I love Bruce Dern and everything he does. Mm-hmm. He's buddies with Bruce Dern in this old folks home. He's really into wrestling, and he's got these old VHS tapes. He's really into Thomas Hayden Church's old wrestler character. He plays the saltwater redneck, a great wrestling character. He would be real for sure. And if the WWE would think of him, they would have had the saltwater redneck. They'd had versions of the saltwater redneck, let's face it. He wants to escape and meet him. He wants to join the wrestling camp and the wrestling college and become a wrestler. And Bruce Dern encourages him to escape. And before long, he's on the run with Shia LaBeouf. They're buddied up. Everything about this movie, story-wise, when you hear the story, it just reeks of this is going to be a sentimental, weep by the end of it journey. It does not stray into that heartwarming shite territory for a second. Him and Shia LaBeouf are great together. The young guy Zach with Down syndrome and Shia LaBeouf, they're wonderful. Dakota Johnson plays a social worker from the home who's trying to track down young Zach and as they rampage around southern Florida. And they're on the lam too, because Shia LaBeouf, he's done some bad things. He's burnt down some fishing equipment, and he's taken his brother's fishing grounds or crabbing grounds in the bayou, but those grounds have not been awarded to him. They've been given to someone else, so he's technically a poacher. It culminates with them finding the saltwater redneck and encouraging him to allow them to wrestle, and it's like a modern Huckleberry Finn, really. Zach being like the escaped slave and Shia LaBeouf being like Huckleberry Finn, right down to them building a raft and floating along the Carolina coast as they're trying to get to where they think the wrestling camp is going to be. It's a lot of fun. It's funny. It's a good buddy pick. It's not heartwarming, but it's nice and dramatic, and it touches the right beats. I recommend Peanut Butter Falcon. The title of the movie comes from when the character of Zach creates his wrestling character. He calls himself the Peanut Butter Falcon. So
that makes sense.
Hence the title of the movie.
Yeah, I've been curious about this one for a while.
All right, so that's it for today. Of course, 3 big recommendations for Deadpool Wolverine.
You got it.
And go check that out. It's a theater movie for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, that's it for today. Next time, we're going to be back to discuss the Star Wars series, The Acolyte. Until then, you can give us a like and subscribe to our Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram accounts. And if you want to search out our past reviews, you can look up a film on our website, whyweseemovies@libsyn.com. Thanks for listening, and take care.
Farewell.
Ciao, ciao.